So, I bought an Irish Boomerang the other day. It never returns, but it knows a lot of sad songs about how it would like to. Now, of course, those of you who read the title know that I am talking about the Irish Boomerang paradox. And why do I call it this? Because all these sad Irish songs about how they'd like to return to Ireland somehow return to Ireland. I traveled through Ireland, I visited the pubs, I've listened to some of the local folk songs, and the Irish know all these songs about people leaving Ireland and wanting to return, but not returning. So the songs make it back even if the people don't. Now, the bigger paradox, I guess, to this would be that most of these songs are written by people who never leave Ireland. And so that's sort of what I'm going to talk about a little today, is the Irish Boomerang paradox, as I call it. Now, one thing to consider here, one of the most recognized, least known, most inappropriate songs would probably be The Girl I Left Behind Me. Now, I'd say most recognized because a lot of people have heard this, even if they don't recognize that they've heard it. Least known because they didn't know what they were listening to, and most inappropriate because even though it sounds like a Irish song, about someone wanting to return home, it's not. So, if you like westerns, they go to the saloon and there's the guy playing on the piano. That's The Girl I Left Behind Me. Now, this is actually an English song. It was the earliest print version of it was printed in Dublin in the 1790s. However, the words of the song mean it's fairly obvious this was an English song written about a guy going to war sometime in the 1750s, and he's left a girl behind him, basically. The song's been rewritten several times, so several future wars it got rewritten for, one of them being the American Civil War, which is why westerns, you'll hear it played in saloons and all, because it was a popular song during the Civil War, so after the Civil War, it got played. To the best of my knowledge, there is not a specific Irish version of it. For the Civil War, the words got changed to match the Civil War. It's been rewritten. I think World War I, there was a version where the guy's talking about going to fight the Kaiser, but he's left his girlfriend behind. So there's been several versions of it. They're all war-related. Guy going off to war, not guy leaving his country to immigrate elsewhere. But it did get picked up back in Ireland. And it's not a super popular Irish song, but you will occasionally hear it played in pubs, and you'll hear it on CDs of Irish folk music and stuff like that, even though it's not really an Irish song. Now, there are other Irish songs. Danny Boy, of course, probably the most popular Irish song ever, and it is about Danny Boy moving away from Ireland. It is, of course, not sung by Danny Boy. It's sung by, presumably, one of his parents, I would think, from the way it sounds. So again, the person leaving Ireland is not the person singing the song. So it's not really an immigration song, although it does cover the subject of immigration, sort of. Now, there are other reasons why people left. The Fields of Athenry is about a man who stole food to feed his family during the famine, got caught, got shipped to the Australian penal colonies. So she'll wait and hope and pray for her love in Botany Bay. The person singing it's basically a third-person narrative. So Michael and Mary, the man and woman of the song, they talk to each other some throughout the song, but they aren't really singing the song. It's a third person. I heard I heard these people talking. It's actually, one of the lyrics. By a lonely prison wall, I heard a young man calling. And so, again, the person singing the song is not someone who left Ireland. He's singing about another person who left Ireland. Speaking of Botany Bay, we have Far Away in Australia, which is not about a prisoner, but it's about a guy who went to build a better life for himself. Now, I've heard this one. It's a nice song. I was looking up songs on the internet just to make sure I got lyrics correct and stuff like that. And everything I read about the song, it's a sad, sad song about two lovers separated because he has to leave and blah, blah, blah. That's not what the song's about. In fact, so he does. He does leave. He wants to go set up a better life. But then it's like the next verse is, I'll send for you when I get things better. I'll be true to you. I will. And it actually ends on a happy note with, him sending a letter back, Daily she waits by the old garden gate, watching the whole day through, till one day a letter from over the sea, and she's hoping these words are true. Far away in Australia, now has come the time when I am ready to welcome at last the girl I left behind. So it's got a happy ending to it. But of course, like I said, people on the internet assume that all Irish songs have to be sad, so their version of this, or their, commentary on this is, it's a sad, sad song about lovers being lost. No, it's not. It's about a guy going to build a better life, succeeding at building a better life, and bringing his loved one to him. So it's a happy song, actually, even though it sounds like a sad song, because I think there's a rule, general rule, Irish people seem to think that your beer tastes better if it's salted by your own tears. And that's the best explanation I can come up for why they sing so many sad songs in the pub. It's because your tears make the beer taste better. Even far away from Australia, which isn't a sad song, they sing it with a somewhat mournful tune because it sounds better as a sad song, even though it's not really one. This continues up into the 80s. There's, Flight of Earls. There's one or two other songs I've never heard of, but I saw listed on the internet from the 80s, where, again, it was about immigration. And, again, the people writing these songs did not leave Ireland. They are just writing about how they think the experiences of the people who did leave Ireland went. So they're not necessarily the best authorities on the subject. At the same time, a lot of these songs, they're social commentary. It's, I observe something going on in society, I write a song about it. Is it 100% correct? Maybe, maybe not. So they have, obviously they have some better insight into it than I do. So if I feel right to make a video commenting on these songs, then they obviously have the right to make their own commentary on it. They're at least, even if they're not the ones leaving Ireland, they're at least living there. So they've got a better idea of what's going on than I actually do. I'm just a guy who listens to songs and sings them off key sometimes. So, where does this leave everything else? It should also be, I mentioned, these songs from the 1980s. Those were considered, some people call it the brain drain of Ireland. It was basically, people go to college, they get their degrees. Ireland didn't have a lot of technical jobs available, so people left Ireland in order to get work. Not that work didn't exist in Ireland, it's just not the work they were trained for. And so some people called this the brain drain, just because all their technical, you train for a technical job, you have to leave the country now, or otherwise your diploma does you no good. Now, interestingly enough, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, Ireland started making more tech jobs. And people were actually starting to go back to Ireland because jobs were available. And then the European Union comes along and says, you got to slow this down. Your success isn't good for the rest of Europe. And in order to keep the entire European economy stable, every country has to do its bit by not getting too successful, or something weird like that. And so, people are moving back to Ireland, and the rest of Europe says, no, stop, you're doing it wrong. Interestingly enough, earlier than this, sometime possibly 70s or 80s, a guy actually wrote a song about, well, not a song, more of a poem, but it was normally recited to music in the background. We got rid of one strange language, now we're faced with many, many more. And this was, Ireland and England had always been at odds for a long time, and there was a lot of... They actually for the last few decades, they got along pretty well. But there were still Irish people who bore some animosity against the English. And so this guy wrote this poem, but at the same time he recognizes, look, England's pulled back, but the rest of Europe's doing the same thing that the English did to us for years. So, 10 to 20 years before the Irish economy started to recover and Europe turned around and said, stop it, this guy actually came out and predicted, yes, this is going to happen. Or he, not quite a prediction, but he basically said, hold on a second, this isn't necessarily as good as we hope it's going to be. And he predicted correctly. So, anyway, I like Irish music. I like the old mournful songs. But I just find it interesting that these songs about people leaving are for the most part written by people who didn't actually leave. And like I said, social commentary, it makes sense to a point. But it is also sort of a paradox where, everyone here, listening to these songs, you would think this is written by the guy who is gone, and it's not. It's not written by the guy who's gone. And that's why I call it the Irish Boomerang paradox, because you have the joke about the guys, the boomerang, which wants to return but never does, but sing songs about it. So that's where that part comes in. And the paradox part is that the people who actually make these songs, for probably the majority of the cases, aren't the people who actually left. And that's all I had. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the singing. Have a good day.